Hello, everybody. David here. Welcome. Here we share true stories from real people. Today, starting out with the first story. My mom kicked me out because I refused to share my college fund with my step-siblings. She also didn't like what happened next. So here's a bit of background before diving into what happened. I'm a 17-year-old girl living with my 43-year-old mom, stepdad, and two step-siblings. I have a stepbrother and a stepsister, but we're not close. My stepbrother, let's call him Jackson, is a year older than me, and my stepsister, Emma, is 2 years younger. We all go to the same high school, but we don't share friends and have never been close. My mom married their dad after dating for almost 5 years. The wedding happened 3 years ago, but our families had been living together for 6 years. The wedding was just a formality. As for my dad, unfortunately, he passed away when I was very young, so I didn't get much time with him. I barely remember him because I was so young when he died. My parents were never married, and my dad's family didn't accept my mom because she was a bit of a party girl and didn't have the best reputation in their hometown. So they lived together for a short while but didn't marry because his parents might have disowned him. He was diagnosed with terminal leukemia at just 27, and by the time they found out, it was too late to do anything. Fortunately, he had time to get his affairs in order and set up a college fund for me after his passing, so I wouldn't have to worry, and my mom wouldn't struggle much after his death. I've always known about this since his lawyer told me when I was old enough to understand these things. My dad's lawyer controls the money, but after I turn 18, I'll have full control over the fund. A long time after my dad's death, it was just me and my mom, and I got used to that. Then my stepdad came along when I was about 8, and after dating for a while, we all moved in together. My mom moved out of the town we used to live in because she said it was too painful to live in the same place where she and my dad met, although I think it was because of her reputation. I never met my grandparents on my dad's side because they never showed any interest in meeting me. We occasionally visited my mom's parents, who were nice, but my mom's family wasn't really close-knit. So when we moved in with my stepdad and his kids, I had high hopes, thinking I'd finally have a big happy family. But unfortunately, my new family didn't live up to that, and I don't blame them for it, but it left me quite disappointed. When I was young, it wasn't that they made me feel unwelcome or treated me badly, but there was just something really off about everyone's energy. We all lived together, but it never really felt like a family, and I never connected with my stepdad or his kids. We lived under the same roof, but they never really made an effort to make me feel comfortable or get to know me. I tried multiple times, but they didn't seem too enthusiastic, so I gave up after a few months of trying. I accepted that we were more like roommates than an actual family, and that was that. I didn't idealize it. However, my mom's experience was entirely different because they treated her very differently. The energy toward my mom was completely different, and they really considered her a part of the family. I could be very wrong here, but I feel that part of the reason my step-siblings and stepdad were happy to include my mom and pretend to be a happy family with her while excluding me was that my stepdad's ex-wife was a nightmare. I never met her personally, but I've heard about her, and from what I've heard, she was a total gold digger who left my stepdad nearly broke after the divorce. He had to rebuild his life from scratch, and to make matters worse, he was left to care for my two step-siblings alone. Their mom abandoned them and ran off with her new lover right after the divorce. Finding a woman like my mom, who was the complete opposite of his ex-wife, was probably great for all of them, but I wasn't really needed in that equation, and that's exactly how they felt. I can't pinpoint it, and I can't think of examples right now, but it's just based on feelings and energy. I always felt like, even though I was part of the family, I wasn't really a part of the family. The only comfort I had was the thought that I might be overthinking everything, and that's what I would tell myself whenever things got tough for me. It feels weird to say this, but I was a little jealous because I felt like my mom had finally found her people, but I wasn't included. I don't think that's a good feeling for a child to have, but that was my childhood. I started resenting all of them after a few years because it seemed like they just abandoned me or something. I never brought it up to anyone because it always seemed petty and meaningless, so I didn't want to make a big deal out of it by saying anything, and that's just life. I wasn't okay with it, but I was content. Now, back to what happened a few days ago. I've been looking at colleges for the past few weeks because I'm expected to graduate in a few months, and I need to start sending out applications. I wasn't worried about money because, as I mentioned, my mom always told me there was a fund set aside for me, and that's what I would use. But a few days ago, my mom told me she needed to talk to me about something very important. She told me that my stepdad wasn't able to save money for his kids to go to college, so she needed me to help the family by letting my step-siblings use the money from my college fund as well. Jackson had taken a gap year and was set to start college at the same time as me, so that was the context of the conversation. Legally, my mom has no control over that money because, according to his will, my dad made it clear that only I could control my money after I turned 18. And to be honest, I don't want to share that money with my step-siblings. First, I don't consider them family, and I'm sure they feel the same way. And second, even if I don't use all the money my dad left me, I still want to use the fund for myself. That money could really help me get a good start and be useful when I get my own apartment and things like that until I start earning my own money. Besides, I've saved a lot by attending public school instead of private school, and so far, my mom hasn't had to spend money on my education. I'm also a good student, so I'm expecting to get scholarships at whatever university I decide to apply to and attend. Money has never been a concern for me, but now that I'm older and turning 18 in a few months, I've started thinking about saving and making money. To me, giving away money from my fund to my step-siblings doesn't seem like a good idea. So I told my mom that I wouldn't share the money with them because I didn't think it was necessary. If Jackson really wanted to go to college, he could just do what millions of kids do and get a student loan. My mom wasn't happy with my answer and called me selfish, and I didn't disagree. I was being selfish, and I saw nothing wrong with that. So, instead of arguing with her, I just told her that I was selfish and completely okay with that because I didn't consider my step-siblings family. That's when my mom started yelling at me, seemingly believing that what I said was tantamount to committing a criminal offense. It took me a few seconds to process the fact that she was losing it just because I told the truth and said that I didn't consider my step-siblings family. The double standard was unbelievable because, on one hand, the family had treated me like an outsider for the past 8 years, and she never seemed to notice, or maybe she did and just didn't care. But when it comes to me, I have to consider them family and treat them as such for no reason at all. I tried to talk to her calmly and not yell back at her, but it was pointless because she was out of control, calling me ungrateful and other things. So I waited for her to finish yelling at me, and then I told her that she could yell at me all she wanted, but I wasn't going to change my mind. The only thing that yelling accomplished was pushing me further away and making me even less inclined to help them in any capacity. My mom calmed down a little after I said that, and I thought we were finally going to have a reasonable discussion where I could express my feelings, but that was naive of me. I forgot that in that house, my feelings didn't matter anymore. The only thing that mattered was that my mom, my stepdad, and my step-siblings were happy. My happiness didn't matter to any of them. So, after she calmed down, she told me I had a week to decide, but after that, she would have no choice but to kick me out of the house. I thought she was joking because that was ridiculous, but she told me she wasn't, and since my birthday was less than a month away, she wouldn't even be legally obligated to let me live with them anymore because I wouldn't be a minor. So I'd be out on my own with no support if I didn't agree to share my college fund, which I'll reiterate was created by my dad specifically for me, with my step-siblings. I could hardly believe that my biological mother would say such things to me, and put me in such a difficult position just for the sake of my step-siblings when I was supposed to be her own daughter. It seemed that being with her new husband was more important than her daughter, and now I understood that. She told me to be careful and think this through because this decision could cost me everything. And then she left the room while I sat there trying to process what she had just said. I was deeply hurt to be treated this way by my own mother, and that day I decided I would leave that house no matter what. So I started talking to friends and telling them that I needed help finding an apartment of my own because I planned to move out on my 18th birthday. I told them everything my mom had said and explained the urgency of the situation. I knew that once I turned 18, I would get all the money and then be able to control where I spent it. Yes, I would have to save and carefully choose a career in college, but it was worth it because it meant that at least I could move out and live independently instead of enduring this family, or rather, forcing them to endure me. Because after that conversation with my mom, it was clearer than ever that I wasn't welcome in that house, and had really just been a burden all these years. I hadn't overthought anything. In fact, I might have underestimated everything because I never saw this coming. A few days passed and a friend told me she had talked to a cousin who was also applying to the same college as me because we were both interested in a similar field. She was planning to live in an apartment because she wanted to be independent from the start, and my friend suggested I get in touch with her so that if we ended up attending the same college, we could rent an apartment together and live there. I thought it was a great idea and almost immediately got in touch with my friend's cousin. We arranged everything, and I also told her about my situation, and she seemed very understanding, and I could tell she was a good person and we would get along well. So that part was settled, and the only thing I had to worry about was where I would live until college started because that was still a few months away. But it turns out I got that sorted pretty easily because my friends told me I could stay with them until college started. It was a complicated and risky plan, but I was willing to go through with it because anything was better than living with my mom and these people. Because the way they treated me after the argument with my mom was horrible. And I don't mean horrible in the sense that they were bad-mouthing me or tormenting me or anything, but what they were doing was far more humiliating. Everyone banded together against me and acted as if I was the most disgusting creature to ever exist. Like if I walked into a room, everyone would immediately stop talking and retreat to their rooms. They were constantly giving me dirty looks, and even refused to speak to me, as if I had done something wrong. It was humiliating, and I wanted to run away because the feeling was so awful. It took me a while to figure something out for myself, but I decided that as soon as my friends were ready to take me in, I would leave this place. So, the day my mom talked to me again to see if I had changed my mind, I decided to tell her the truth and then leave. I told her I hadn't changed my mind, and I was, in fact, going to leave. I told her that the way she and her family had treated me over the past week was nothing short of psychotic, and I couldn't continue to put up with it. I told her I had talked to a few friends and would be living with them until I could start college and get out of here. I told her that I never wanted to see her again, so she could go ahead and kick me out, and I wouldn't care. I had already planned for that. So, I wasn't too surprised when she started yelling at me again and told me that I needed to get out of her house because it wasn't a place for selfish, ungrateful daughters like me. I left pretty cheerfully and was happy to see the last of them, but that wasn't the end of my plan. During the time I spent in my room completely isolated, I thought of a way to get back at my mom. Ever since she married my stepdad, my life had changed for the worse, but she didn't even seem to care because she was happy with her new family. I tried to be happy for her and suppress my feelings about it, but now it was clear that she didn't care about me at all, and that her stepkids were more important to her than I was. The way she treated me made me feel so terrible that I decided I wasn't going to let this go. That's why the moment I left the house, I decided to tell the whole truth about her and let everyone know who she really was. The only reason I waited a week to leave her house and then speak out about her outrageous demands was that I didn't want her to reach out to me and tell me how disappointed she was in me or anything like that. Because no sane person would support the things she said to me, so when people found out, there would be a storm coming her way. So when I moved in with a friend, I decided to go on my social media and post about my mom. I wrote about what happened and how my mom yelled at me just because I didn't want to contribute to her stepkids' college fund. I also mentioned how none of them had ever treated me like family, but my mom never seemed to have an issue with that. It only became a problem when I did the same thing to them. I provided more details in the post, recounting specific instances where I felt excluded. I talked about the double standards. I also mentioned how she had almost forgotten about me when she started living with her new family. And I also said that I saw her as the most selfish creature on this planet for the way she treated me, just for saying no to something completely ridiculous. Any sane person in my position would have said no, because the money she was talking about was left to me by my dad specifically for me. It wasn't for anyone else to use, and I didn't think it was fair to ask me to share it with people who had never made me feel like part of their family. I might have even considered it if my step-siblings had been kind to me at any point, but that wasn't the case here. I was really frustrated and let all my frustration out in that post. I knew this would negatively impact my mom because she had a lot of followers, including my dad's friends and their children. But at that moment, I simply didn't care and wanted to get back at her. Honestly, she had been my only source of support and happiness throughout my life because I only had my parents to rely on, and my grandparents didn't really stay in touch with me. She was my first and most important friend, so when she chose my step-siblings over me, I felt like it was a huge betrayal. I was deeply hurt and just wanted to get everything off my chest without worrying about the consequences. So I posted it, and exactly what I expected happened. I received multiple messages from my mom saying that I had ruined her life because everyone had seen the post and it had been shared numerous times. My mom was quite popular among her friends, so it was no surprise that people were just looking for an excuse to talk about her, and I had added fuel to the fire. She tried calling me multiple times, but I didn't answer any calls or reply to any messages. I was just really upset and had hoped that posting it would make me feel better. But the messages my mom sent me afterward only made me feel worse about my decision. I could tell from her messages that she was genuinely devastated by this. She said things like she never expected me to do something like this, that she had raised me to be kind and compassionate, but I was the opposite of both, and she couldn't even believe I was her daughter. Then she pulled out the big one and told me that if my dad were alive today to see this vengeful and cruel side of me, he would be deeply disappointed and wouldn't even want to be related to me. That really hit me hard, and I started to feel like I was doing something terrible. I began second-guessing everything, and that's what ultimately brought me here. And at this point, I'm not even sure if I was right to not want to share my college fund with my step-siblings. I don't know if I should try to make amends with my mom and the others, because I'm not even sure if I can face them after what I've done. But then again, this could be a very clever way to try and manipulate me, and if that's the case, it's definitely working. That's why I need all of you to help me, because now that you have the truth, you can give me your objective perspective. So, am I the bad person for refusing to share my college fund with my step-siblings, and then posting against my mom? Update 1. First of all, thank you so much for the feedback. Many of you have sent me really kind messages, and that has made me feel better about myself and what I've done. I guess I needed that to see things for what they are. I was planning to give my mom another chance just because I wanted to see the good in her and believe she wasn't a bad person. But the way she's spoken and the things she's done, she simply isn't a good person, and it's time I accepted that instead of fighting against it. So I've blocked her to make sure she can't reach out to me anymore. I know if she texts me again, it will only be to manipulate me or make that post go away. I don't want to take that post down. I want it to stay up at least until she apologizes to me. She knows where I am because my friend's mom told her that I'm living with them, so she knows where to find me. And knowing that, if she doesn't reach out to me, I'll take that as a sign that she doesn't care about me, and that she cares more about her reputation. Update 2. So it's been 2 weeks since I moved in with my friend and moved out of my stepdad's house. Since that post, I haven't had any contact with anyone from the family. I've gone to school a few days and seen Emma a few times, but she just gave me dirty looks and pretended like I wasn't there. Not surprising, considering they're practically experts at pretending I don't exist. They've been doing that for the past 8 years, so I guess it's much easier for them now. Anyway, my mom finally came to visit me this afternoon. She showed up with a black plastic bag, the kind people use for trash, and left it in the living room, saying it had all my remaining stuff in it, basically things I couldn't fit in my bag when I left the house. I felt a bit insulted that she used a trash bag to pack my things, and even more insulted when she dumped it all on the living room floor, leaving me to pick it up. My friend and her parents, who witnessed all of this, were horrified. They didn't like the way my mom behaved at all and really took the time to argue with her about it. They told her that since I'm her only daughter, she should show me more compassion instead of treating me like garbage. They really gave it to her, but she couldn't take it. She told them they had no right to speak about how she raised her daughter when they were the ones raising a delinquent like me. I almost laughed when she said that because I'm not a delinquent, I'm actually an honors student, and she knows that. I almost pointed that out myself, but it wasn't necessary, thanks to my friend who stood up for me. She said that to my mom and also that she's grateful her parents aren't like mine and have hearts. It turned into a bit of a shouting match, and my friend's parents even threatened to call the cops, so she reluctantly left. I'm really grateful for my friend and her parents. I don't think they really had to take my side, but they did, and I couldn't be happier about it. This is probably the first time in my life that someone has fought for me, and it really means a lot. But anyway, I don't think my mom will be back anytime soon because after the welcome she got yesterday, she wouldn't dare show up here again, and I'm honestly hoping she doesn't because I'm so tired of the drama. Right now. I just want to move on with my life and start a new chapter, but I can't do that if she keeps showing up over and over. So I'm hoping this is the last time I see her. Update 3. Hello again. It's been a while since we last connected. I haven't updated in quite some time. I think it's been a few months, but you can't blame me for that. That's because I've been applying to colleges and trying to get into a good one with a scholarship. I've been working really hard and it's all paid off. I'm going to my first choice university, and yes, I'm following the plan I thought of a few months ago. My friend's cousin, who was also applying to the same university, got in too, and will be renting an apartment and living together. She's a really sweet girl, and the fact that she's my friend's cousin is just amazing, because this way, I can keep in touch with everyone. I know many people are waiting for updates on my mom, and not about how my life is going. But don't worry, I have something to tell you about her. But since it's a bit long, I'll leave it for the end. My mom showed up at my friend's house again, and this time things got really bad. She yelled, demanding I take down the post and issue a public apology. I think she woke up that day feeling very optimistic because clearly after all that wasn't going to happen. She actually called me ungrateful and other very nasty things, and as a self-righteous person would, she demanded I help her fix her life because that post had messed her up so much. At that moment, I was a bit at a loss for what to do because everything happened so fast, and I didn't know if she was capable of being violent or not. The situation escalated quickly and turned into a huge fight. There was some grappling, yelling, and a lot of chaos. At one point, she grabbed my arm and started pulling me as if she was trying to kidnap me. During this, she kept yelling at me to take down the post. My friend's parents eventually called the cops to intervene and also helped me get out because the situation had gotten out of hand. The craziest part is that my friend recorded the whole scene on her phone. When she told me, I couldn't believe it, but I decided to upload it to my social media. So now, not only is there a post telling everyone about how she treated me all these years, but there's also a video with evidence. I'm even hoping some YouTube channel picks up the story so what my mom did to me can go viral and get even worse. When the cops arrived, she calms down a bit, but still, my friend's parents explained to the cops what had happened, so they took her away. After finding out my friend recorded the video, I thought about using it as evidence, but honestly, I don't have the energy or desire to waste my efforts on my mom. After all, I don't even know if I can consider her that anymore. Plus, that video is on my social media, and I'm not sure if it can be used as evidence. If it can, then great, but I don't want to know anything more about her. I know many people were expecting a stronger revenge against my mom, but if you were in my shoes, you'd probably be as exhausted as I am after years of going through this, so the best thing for me is to cut all ties with her, especially now that I've moved to college and won't have her around.